Welcome to the Growth Fire Podcast, where we engage with top business leaders who share their experiences and provide real insights that help them attract customers, retain staff, and grow their bottom line. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Horrigan, host of the show, where I feature inspiring agency owners, business owners, and others who are willing to share their stories and insights. Today's podcast is brought to you by Spinutech. Ishan, here at Spinutech, we help middle market and larger companies get more leads and more customers. Who doesn't want more leads and customers? How do we do that? Well, at Spinutech, we can take an end-to-end digital approach, starting with your website and making sure it has the right aesthetic appeal and convincing content to convert visitors into action. And then we look through all your digital marketing tactics, such as SEO, paid search, organic search, paid social, email marketing, and more. With the correct website and optimized digital marketing campaigns in place, we assist our clients in attracting more qualified leads, accelerating interest in existing leads, and ultimately helping them grow. To learn more, you can go to spinutech.com. That's www.spin.com. Spinutech, thank you so much for your sponsorship. Well, today's guest is Ishan Patel. Ishan is an entrepreneur with a decade of experience building online companies in the product, service, and health spaces. Today, Ishan is the CEO and co-founder of Audien Hearing. Audien started in a garage and has since grown to be the highest volume selling over-the-counter hearing aid brand in the world. Ishan created the lowest cost hearing aid and made Audien the first company in history to ever launch nationwide within Walmart. Ishan has been nominated for Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year award and is regarded as an industry leader in the over-the-counter hearing aid space. Ishan is a cat dad, foodie, snowboarder, enjoys public speaking, serves as several keynote speeches, and he resides in Fountain Hills, Arizona with his wife. Ishan, welcome to the Growth Fire Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Ishan, let's give a shout out to the PR group who introduced us together. Appreciate the introduction. I appreciate getting to know you so far. You got an amazing story, and I can't wait for the audience of the Growth Fire to hear more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Crystal and her team are great.
Absolutely. Ishan, well, so let's get started. We've got a chance to get to know each other a little bit, but please tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, maybe where you went to school, what little Ishan wanted to do when he became an adult. Maybe give us a little background, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona. I went to like the Montessori schools because I was, let's call it creative as a child. I think it's a better word for ADD. And, ultimately went on to have a really strong academic upbringing thanks to my parents. When I was a kid, I would say the first thing I wanted to be was an astronaut, just looking up at the sky. I think I always had big dreams. And then I used to talk a lot. So they would joke like, you should be the president one day. Saw that job might be a little bit harder than it's worth. So ultimately went into school and kind of fell into a more traditional path for quite a while there. I was studying to be an engineer when I was in college. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school. And ultimately, I ended up joining a sales club when I was in college and really getting kind of that experience in public speaking and interacting with people, and just realized that that was the route I wanted to go, a route where I could connect with individuals, solve problems, and do what I do best, which is frankly just have a good time talking to people. And that sales route led me ultimately into dropping out of college one day to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams. And much to my parents' dismay, I gave up that full ride, that scholarship, and went for it.
Wow, that's interesting, and I have to say, it's very interesting. We're going to double click on a couple of those things, but like many guests of the Growth Fire podcast, you went into school with one direction and came out with another. But what a change of direction! Went into engineering and found a passion in sales and marketing. Like if that's to your pretty opposite sides of the spectrum, and found such a passion for it, you chose to leave a full ride scholarship early to pursue an entrepreneurial background. What was the first idea that made you leave school that you're so passionate about, let mom and dad down, had to deal with all that hard work? What was this great idea that you had to take to market?
Well, the first idea was actually an artificial intelligence company. I dare say it was the early version of the chat GPT concept, right? But this was well over like 10 years ago at this point. So I definitely went out with a big dream and was working with a different group of individuals that was working on developing that tech. But I would say we were a bit early to that concept, right? The technology was just not quite there yet.
Yeah. And I think, we see that quite a bit. Sometimes the pioneer in a space lets the second or third generation be the one who actually can take it to market. I can remember in my own career, these are things I personally tried that were a little bit pre-awareness, or maybe some ideas of maybe that I helped try to support in other sections. It was just too early and the market wasn't ready. And so the concept was there, but the awareness externally wasn't. And so the ability to get capital wasn't as easy. The ability to get market share wasn't, just the market wasn't there. But sometimes the second iteration, third iteration, some of those barriers are blocked down, and what could have been your chat GPT, it's the daily conversation these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Yep. So you've had tremendous success with the current company, Audien, that you have today. You started out of your garage. Where did you decide to go from being what could have been chat GPT to helping people get their hearing back?
So after that entrepreneurial venture failed spectacularly, I was left with no degree, absolutely no income, no qualifications, and negative amounts of money in my bank account. So actually, one of the guys who who was a team member of mine on that particular company, had somebody who had told him about the rise of the over-the-counter hearing space. Said, hey, look, the government has just decreed that they're going to create this category. It's brand new, sort of like the Wild West, right? It hadn't yet been officially ruled on, but it had been created. And so he was working on an online company back then that was going into that space. And he said, hey, look, I know you've got some sales experience. We're looking for somebody to start in the customer service role. You're going to have to do some cleaning and testing. I can't tell you how much earwax I've cleaned out of hearing aids in my time. And then ultimately a sales position opened up, them saying, look, we want to try to sell hearing aids on the phone for the first time, really ever. I don't know if it had ever been done. And if it had, it was certainly not popularized. Sure. So I hopped on the phones and ended up becoming the #1 hearing aid sales rep in the country based off of the volumes that I was doing, and really found a passion for the problem and the pain and suffering that we were solving for our customers. And I personally, in that time period of working with that company, helped over 1,000 customers myself. So that's really what got me into the hearing space in the first place.
Yeah. So it sounds like that passion for sales and marketing in college, after a few trying entrepreneur opportunities, you found a passion for helping people get their hearing back. And you were really good at helping those people agree that you were the right solution for all of that. What changed from working to this company to wanting to start the business by yourself?
That's a great question. So even working for this company, I found there were several both philosophical and practical differences I had between the way they were approaching it. And ultimately, I left that company to try to start my own companies actually outside of the hearing space, because I was just trying to kind of break into my own online e-commerce space. So my current co-founder and I, we tried to launch like 6 or 7 different companies. Some did all right, some didn't. If you guys know the e-commerce space, it's very fast moving. Yes. With products. And ultimately, we full circled back to having a third co-founder come in who had this really strong digital marketing and e-commerce model he had been succeeding in the drop shipping space with. And he saw our hearing aid model and he thought, what if we put them together? Lo and behold, we did. And in March of 2020, we launched Audien Hearing in that garage in a soon to be blazing summer in Tempe, Arizona. And we did $1 million in revenue in 50 days. And within 90 days, we were doing $1 million a month. And that was bootstrapped out of a garage with a $500 starting budget. So that's we're going to double click deep into that. So so we understand, we understand how you got to become a business owner. I think maybe I'll go into some other question about being a business owner, but let's talk about, in 90 days doing $1 million to then doing $1 million a month, and you said you had a strong partner in the digital marketing space. Without sharing too much of your secret sauce, can you tell us, what was it that changed? You said you did, 6, 7 other businesses before in e-commerce, and this one just took off. Must be a great product, but must be great product marketing too. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the tactics that you used in helping, get this amazing, huge amount of market share in such a short period of time? Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that was the most important was to understand the consumer need, right? Which I had spent ultimately years doing, and I had a really intimate understanding of. But the question is, how do you present this information to them in a way that's never been done, or in a way that really captures the attention? So I think, it sounds simple, but you would know this just as well as I would, Kevin, with your experience in the industry. Having the right landing page, having the right copy, having the right converting, call to action. Those little things, those tiny tweaks that can be made can just literally be the difference between profitable and unprofitable, between success and failure, right?
Yes.
And so having a partner come in that had such a strong, intimate knowledge and past experience of those things was completely invaluable to a concept I knew was a winning concept, but frankly hadn't really been able to get off the ground by myself. Yep. So that take that. So we made the website and then launched on Facebook using Facebook ads. So paid social was our first channel, and then just sort of expanded the ecosystem from there, creating this sort of flywheel. We call it an ecosystem where one channel fed into the other, and it all rising tide sort of rose all the ships.
Yeah, no, what an amazing story. And you talk about sometimes just some of those minor changes can be humongously different in the performance, and it goes from profitable to unprofitable, and with just some minor changes. We see that all the time, and sometimes what we see in there, Ishan, is that sometimes amazing products without great marketing never succeed. And
absolutely,
sometimes you find the best marketed products aren't necessarily the best products; they're the best marketed. It sounds like you found the secret sauce to not only have a great product but great marketing behind you. Talk a little bit about your product development and what differentiates Audien from just the product of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So back at the beginning of this concept, we were thinking, what if you could make a $99 hearing device, right? And traditionally, hearing aids have been sold prescription only. You got to go to a doctor, you got to get a prescription. Insurance sometimes covers some of it, oftentimes not, almost never covers all of it. And the average pair of hearing aids was $4,600 for a pair. It is the third most expensive purchase the average person made behind their home and their car in their lifetime. And that just was baffling to me, right? You got iPhones, you got smartphones, supercomputers in our pocket. Same tech that launched the first rocket into space, they say, is on an iPhone, right? I don't know if it's true, but I believe it.
Right.
And that cost $1,000. So how are you going to possibly tell me that a much simpler device is $4,600? So the first thing was just challenging the status quo and trying to figure out what was possible. And then the second thing, I think, was figuring out what the customers actually needed, right? Not the whole bells and whistles of, okay, well, I'm going to pack this tech in there and that tech in here and upcharge here and, make it worth thousands more there. It's how do I get a product in the hands of the customer that absolutely needs it and give them the functionality they are looking for, right? And the third thing was just knowing that this was a product that people wanted, and 80% of the entire hearing market that has hearing loss does not wear a hearing aid. So can you imagine you have an industry where 8 out of 10 individuals is completely unserved? In my opinion, that's a failure of an industry. It's a shocking statistic to learn. So we kind of combined all of that, created our first product, for $99 back then. Wow. But that was the pre-OTC regulation times, right? Where it was still the Wild West. Yes. Then once the regulations came out, partnered with Walmart, and we created at the time the Atom 2, which retails for $189. And that product was at the time the lowest cost over-the-counter hearing aid that anyone had ever invented. Walmart said, that's great, we love it, make it for $99, $98. I said, I don't think you heard me. It's the lowest cost. They go, we want it for half the price, right? So they really challenge us to go back to the shop and figure out how to get this product out with all of the technical specifications, FDA requirements, and of course, medical necessities to get this as a working product. And lo and behold, we were able to get it done. We launched what's called the Atom 1, similar form factor in Walmart. The one I'm really the most proud of is the Atom Pro 2 here. You may recognize the form factor, pretty familiar from a headphone style company here. But this is our latest and greatest in the ear hearing aid.
Wow.
$289 for the pair. All you need to operate the device is a single button. You click the button to change volume. You press and hold to rotate through 4 different listening modes with different frequency ranges to support different kinds of hearing loss, to find what works best for you. Throw in UV sanitation inside when it's closed and plugged in, and a beautiful LED to simulate it. And you have what's called the Atom Pro 2, the highest volume selling OTC hearing aid in the industry right now. So
everything about that's beautiful. Everything about the whole story, the passion, the packaging, that's fantastic. And congratulations. your passion shows in your presentation. So you talked about out of the gate, you did phenomenal with marketing. You started with paid Facebook, and continued to work around the full cycle of marketing. As we're talking here today, what tactics are you finding to be most successful, and where do you see potentially you're experimenting as far as tactics to continue to expand your business?
So I think one thing that is really showing is brand strength over years, right? It's the concept of how do you deliver an experience, not only from the marketing and acquisition side, but from the customer retention side, that gets people talking about it, right? And gets people sharing that story. So I would say that that's starting to kind of snowball and help a lot. The next thing is figuring out what distribution channels or marketing channels, right, are people on but not being reached on. And so we're constantly exploring every single avenue we can to get this product and get these products that people need in front of them in the way they want to see it, right? Nobody wants to go to a doctor's office anymore. And maybe some people don't shop at Walmart. Maybe some people don't shop on Amazon. Maybe some people only listen to the radio, right? Maybe some people only read magazines. Sure. And so it's really about, I think, constantly testing and most importantly, surveying our customer base to find out where they heard about us and where they want to see us next, ultimately.
Yeah, no, congratulations. That's good. As you look forward, you have any telescope view of what you see on the marketing horizon that's going to be experimental for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think live stream shopping is going to be a huge thing. It's a new and emerging channel that a lot of people aren't talking about. I know that the influencer market is just growing super quickly. You've got TikTok Shop, and those types of organic eyeballs areas that are just as important as paid these days. But it takes a really knowledgeable expert, I think, to put them all together. And then from a product standpoint, we've got some really exciting product that we're working on right now. It's going to be cutting edge, the first of its kind. I can't give away too much, but I think we've got something really exciting coming out. We've got several products coming out in 2024 alone. And then the 2025 lineup has me even more excited. So,
well, what you've done with Adam 1 and Adam 2, I mean, I can only imagine what's on the horizon. And again, your passion exudes through, and your excitement and stuff of that nature. And so I'm so happy to hear your success right now. Ishan, let's just switch a couple more questions here. So, you went to school, you wanted to be an engineer, took some sales courses, told your mom and dad bad news that you're going to become an entrepreneur before you walked out with your diploma. You wanted to become a business owner. What have you discovered so far that's been the best part of being a business owner? And what have you found has been the most challenging, hardest part?
Great questions. So I would say the best part of being a business owner for me is the sense of connection and sort of gratitude I have for what I'm able to do, right? Like you are truly, it's almost the best and worst thing in one answer, right? Like you are truly responsible for not only what you're giving out to your customers and how you're treating them, but also what you're doing for your own internal team, your own and employees. So the number of lives that I've been able to impact with this dream is absolutely the best part, right? We have over 600,000 customers nationwide. We'll have over 1 million customers by the end of the year. And the concept of even saying that we are able to impact 1 million lives still sounds crazy to me. And that is undeniably the best part about being a business owner, is that whatever it is you are pursuing and whatever you're putting your effort and your dream behind, it's like you're almost creating your own reality in real time, right? You're not subject to the constraints or the expectations of others, but ultimately you get to be in a truly creative zone to put out into the world what matters to you and be who you want to be as an individual. So as challenging as it is, I think it's the ultimate expression of creative freedom for me as an entrepreneur, is being a business owner. And then as far as the most challenging part of being a business owner, I would say it's similar start to what I just said, is that it's all on you. And every failure, every wrong turn, you're not only responsible for the potential damage that causes to the business, but also all the people that you're supporting and all the people you're responsible for. And one thing that I think that's super challenging that I didn't expect is how to separate my personal feelings and values from what sometimes might be best for the business, right? Like maybe I'm super in love with a certain direction, but ultimately the customer doesn't want that, the business doesn't want that, and it's not what's best. So it's kind of like subduing your own ego to understand what's actually the right thing to do for the right people, and then taking full responsibility for that. So that's a really big challenge, I think, because it weighs on me in the most positive way possible that we have hundreds of thousands of people depending on us, and soon to be millions more.
So I absolutely agree. And I'm going to double click on something you said there. So your passion, your passion fuels you, and that's one of the greatest things about being the business owner, being able to see that passion. But at the same point, sometimes you have to realize your passion for one particular idea or concept that you feel strongly about might not actually be what's in the best interest for the business. Ishan, that's how do you have self-awareness for that?
That's a great question, Kevin. I think first, surround yourself with incredible people that you trust, right? That are willing to call you out on what they see, on what your behaviors are or the direction you're heading in. And then two, I think since we're talking holistically here, not just about what it takes to be a business owner, I think there are several practices you can follow as an individual to really train your mind and your body to cause that introspection, that self-reflection. I think it's super important to have healthy habits, sleep well, not be super erratic and emotionally charged. I believe in yoga and meditation, when applicable or when possible. And there's nothing like, my wife says, every time you feel overwhelmed and like the world is crashing in on you, whether it's in business, in a relationship, in life, go outside, look at the sky, and take 5 deep breaths. You'll realize just how big the world is and just how much opportunity and how many options and avenues there are out there for you. Yeah. So that's those are some examples of how I try to manage those situations.
And that's great sharing. And I think some other guests have shared part of their ability to continue to have the passion and the drive and some of those other things. It takes a healthy mind and body to have a healthy business. And so you're just keeping yourself healthy. I hear meditation often. I hear exercise often. I hear sleep often. And so, there's some quotes out there that you hear sometimes, I'll sleep when I die and some of that type of stuff. And there are definitely some who have lived by that mantra, so to speak, and maybe had some slight success, but there's definitely those who realize that there's a balance out there and rest, exercise, being an opportunity to be away from the business a little bit. Those also can be very successful ingredients to helping you have some self-awareness in times where you have a passion so strong that maybe when you have those times to reflect, meditate, eat well, take 5 deep breaths outside, maybe gives you some of that time to have that self-awareness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best comparison is like when you're in the gym and exercising, your muscles don't grow when you're tearing them. They grow when you're resting and recovering, right? Sure. So similarly, I've found that the best business ideas and breakthroughs I have aren't when I'm sitting here in my office, forcing them out of myself. It's when I'm on the mountain, taking some breath of fresh air, perhaps hurling myself on a snowboard, down that mountain, where I find that clarity that it all clicks in.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic for sharing. I really appreciate that. 2 more questions, Ishan. The first one is every guest we ask, have you had any mentors in your life? And if so, how did they help you become better?
Absolutely. I would say that from a young age, I've sought out mentorship. I did martial arts when I was young, from 6 to 16. It was one of the only ways that ever was able to sort of discipline that hyperactive energy I brought as a child. And so I very much have lived by sort of that sensei, student, mentor, mentee mentality my whole life. Yeah. And I can say that the good mentors made me great, and the not so great mentors taught me arguably even more about myself, right? Of the things I didn't want and the ways I didn't want to be. Yes. So I have to definitely shout out Steve Jenks, the CMO of Empower Retirement. He is an advisor of mine and has been instrumental to teaching me and getting me where I have been today. And then Scott Cohen, actually the co-founder of Byte, that exited for $1 billion all cash as the first direct-to-consumer company to do so in the United States in under 3 years, and they were bootstrapped. Yes. He has joined my team, and he is also an incredible mentor. And the impact that they both had on me is they compress time. So rather than spending 6 months or a year banging my head against the wall, having a breakthrough, burning to learn, as the expression goes, as I have my whole career, right? Perhaps they can help highlight this is where you want to go, this is where you are, and they bring those sort of destinations closer to each other and allow me to advance at a speed that is exponential compared to sometimes the linear approach that we all take in our lives. So I would say to anybody who's listening who has somebody like that in their life, you can only get as much out of that as you put into it. Yes. And if you don't have somebody like that in your life and you feel like you know some people that might represent that, reach out to them. You'd be surprised how fulfilling it is to an average individual to just help somebody who has a passion and a goal.
Yeah, no doubt. I think every guest, who talks about their mentors speaks very similar. My mentor, once told me, Kevin, you are who you hang with, choose accordingly. And, it sounds like you circled yourself in a great, you're hanging with some people too. By the way, Spinitech uses Empower for our benefit, for our 401k. So,
well, there you go.
Little plug
I'll
there.
Let Steve know.
yeah. So, little love back. So there you go, Steve. Thanks so much. We appreciate what you do for our company and for our coworkers. Last question, Ishan. You're a very well-educated guy, great success. Where do you find beside of your mentors? Where do you find inspiration these days?
That's a great question. So you can't see back there, but I got a little bookshelf down there.
Oh, yes.
So I definitely do a lot of reading. I found myself reading a lot of nonfiction about the entrepreneurs that I aspire to be like, biographies and autobiographies of many people, from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos to Michael Dell to Howard Schultz to Ed Catmull, right? And the list goes, Steve Jobs, the list goes on and on. But also on that bookshelf equally are books about sort of like, not so much mental health as mental awareness and peace, like a book I have there called Breathe In, Breathe Out. You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza, right? Understanding that the power of the mind ultimately governs everything you do in your life. So I think reading is really important. Having a strong social life, putting yourself in uncomfortable, non-business situations, right? Social situations, and just really kind of traveling as well, as much as possible to gain as much perspective of the world as you can.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's inspiring. We've been talking to Ishan, who's founder and CEO of Audien. Ishan, you've said a lot of great things today. I imagine some people may want to connect with you afterwards. What's the best way they could reach out to you?
So because I really like you, Kevin, and I'm sure your audience reflects you, I'll just give you my email. So that'll be Ishan, ISHAN, at audienhearing.com, AUDIEN hearing.com.
Ishan, thank you so much for being a guest on the Growth Fire podcast. We super appreciate your time. We appreciate your insights, and we wish you continued success on your ongoing journey.
Thanks so much for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely, Ishan. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Growth Fire podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.